Hi, I'm Tommy.
And I'm Paul.
Welcome to our podcast, Dementia from the Inside Out. Hello. Today we're going to be talking about receiving a diagnosis of dementia and post-diagnostic groups. Now, to actually get into this, I'd like to tell you what happened to me when I was first diagnosed with dementia. I was in work one day and was having a meeting with the directors and suddenly everything went blank and I ended up at home. I don't know how I got home, but I must have just walked out of the meeting. And when my wife came home from the golf, she found me on the floor and I was shaking like a leaf. So she said, "What happened?" And I couldn't speak. So she phoned work and she said, "What's happened to Tommy?" She said, "We don't know, he just got up and walked out." So I wasn't being treated by doctors for anything or any medical problems like that. So she got the doctor out and the doctor came on and the doctor said, "What's happened?" So I couldn't tell the doctor. So my wife said, work said that he just got up and walked out. And when I come home, I found him here shaking by the bed. So the doctor says, "Oh, he's had looks like he's just had a complete shutdown, a mental breakdown." So obviously they put you on antidepressants. So I was on antidepressants for a few weeks and I wasn't getting any better. So he said, "You need to go and see a psychologist." So I went to see a psychologist and I was seeing a psychologist for about 6 months. I wasn't getting any better. And she said, "You need to see a psychiatrist." So as I said, psychiatrist, I was seeing a psychiatrist for a few months. And then one day the psychiatrist got me and the wife in and said, "He's got bipolar." My wife said, "He hasn't got bipolar." And the psychiatrist said, "Yeah, he has." So they put you on these tablets called lithium, which turn you into an absolute zombie. So I used to sleep for 18 hours a day. And they kept increasing the dosage of this lithium. My wife said, "He hasn't got bipolar, I want a second opinion." So I went about another 3 months. Then I got to see Dr. Barnes at Mossley Hill Hospital, who was the top psychiatrist in Liverpool. So he said, "We're going to have to wean you off the tablets, do some brain scans and SPECT scans, do some tests." So a couple of weeks they wean you off the tablets, and then you go and have the MRI scan, the deep SPECT scan. You do all these cognitive tests. Still didn't know anything what was going on. And then it was on the 19th of December. I know that day very well because it was our wedding anniversary. He came to the house and he said, "I have some good news for you and I have some bad news for you." He said, "The good news is you haven't got bipolar." I thought, "Oh, I knew I didn't. I made up them." So my wife said, "Thank God for that." So he said, "The bad news is you've got young onset Alzheimer's." Well, I've never felt fear like that in my life. This water just ran down my back. And I was shaking like a leaf then. So he went. So obviously we never went out for a meal that evening. So you were just left there for a few weeks, loads and loads of weeks. And then it was about 3 months later, I got a letter to go to a post-diagnostic group. So, and that's the first time I've ever heard of a post-diagnostic group. But when I went there, it was just a case of talking to the carer and given all these facts, and obviously when you're given a diagnosis of dementia, you go straight onto the internet and you look, "Oh my God, I've got 7 years to live," and all those sorts of things that you look up at. And I thought, my life's over. And it was one of the hardest things in my life, just sitting in that house, because you just sat in that house and you thought, this is the end of it. And I'm sure before we move on to the post-diagnostic groups and that, I'm sure Paul's got his story to tell.
So my story is very similar to Tommy's. I had my own company, but I knew for a couple of months, maybe 6 months or so, that things weren't right. I mean, I was forgetting people's names, what worked for me for years. And my two sons had worked alongside me at that point in time. So they were thinking, my dad's going a bit funny here, like so. And I was getting headaches, so I got, anyway, long story short, I went to the doctors and they referred me to Walton Neurological Centre. And henceforth they did the scans, and henceforth after that they discovered a small spot on my brain which was Alzheimer's. So I thought it was a tumour. So I suppose in some respect in the same boat as Tommy, one thing we thought it was, but it wasn't. It was all pointing at Alzheimer's, but early onset Alzheimer's. And so when the psychologist, I did all the tests and everything else, and failed miserably. But that was no surprise, because I always failed my tests at school. So, but anyway, so when the psychologist come out to tell me, I can't remember his name, he said they knew Paula was with me at all the tests and everything. So they said, "Where's Paula?" I said, "Well, she's at work." And he said, "Well, can you phone her up and ask her to come?" I said, "Well, no, she's in work." So, what's up? What's the matter? So anyway, eventually he said, "Well," I said, "just tell me if there's something wrong, tell me." So we did. And then I got the same gut feeling as Tommy got, 7 years, here we go, I'll be dead. And I hit the ale and the beers with a vengeance for a couple of months. And then eventually Mossley Hill was phoning me up all the time. I never answered, but eventually I ended up at one of the post-diagnostic groups where Tommy was talking at that point, because I was a year after Tommy getting diagnosed, and then we met up and had a chat, went to the pub for a drink, and then things took off from there, and eventually I joined him, and he pointed me in the right direction. Eventually I joined him in speaking in public about Alzheimer's and doing post-diagnostic sessions for Mossley Hill, and we can talk about that in a minute or two. But so that's how my life went 10 years ago.
Yeah, we'll be talking a little bit more about what a post-diagnostic group actually is, so people will have a full understanding about that. But when you give them a diagnosis, things start to deteriorate straight away, because one, they take away your driving licence, which is the start of losing your independence. So you've got to rely on people to take you anything. Two, took away my job straight away. So I lost my job. So I went from a £55,000 a year job to nothing. So we had to make the decision to sell our house before we lost it, and buy a bungalow and downsize it and future-proof it for the future, make sure the doors are wheelchair accessible and that. So you're planning ahead, so you're planning what should have been planned for at the end of your life, rather than, when you were in your prime, because we just had the new house, new extension put on, everything done, so everything was perfect. It couldn't have gone better than what it was, and then that happened to us.
Yeah, it's a terrible shock. I mean, I was in the same boat as Tommy. I just give myself a present of a brand new Mercedes Benz top of the range one. Cost me about over 40 grand. So now I couldn't even drive it because my license had gone. I didn't even know my license had gone until about 3 weeks after diagnosis. I thought that was a bit strange and a bit because I know people still with dementia still drive, and I don't think I was taking stuff in, wasn't registering stuff clearly in my mind. So I think I should have really appealed that one, but I never anyway. So I mean, I paid for the car, so I had to sell it, and the amount of money I lost on it was just ridiculous. And that was another thing what sent me south to the pub. It was just one of those things. But I think by and large it was probably the right decision. But I just wish I would have been consulted about my driving license Not that I miss it now. I haven't driven for 10 years, so suppose that's the way it is.
I mean, we were under the, when most people are diagnosed, and most people who don't know about dementia, they think it's all about your memory, you know, and they think we just forget everything. We don't forget everything. We forget most things short term, but most people do. If you had to remember everything that you've seen coming to work or that's a day, you know, you couldn't say what the car in front of you was, what the person on the bus sitting next to you was wearing. You know, you see it, but you don't have to remember it because it's not important. But we forget some of the important things, you know. People think that if, you know, they start forgetting things, they're getting dementia. You know, forgetting things is not the same as having dementia, because let's say you forget where you put your car keys, and then you look around and then you find your car keys. You'll know what those car keys are for. The person with dementia, if they found the car keys, they might know what they're for. That's the difference, you know. We won't know what those keys are for, and that makes a big difference. Paul, tell us that story about the time you posted the money.
Yeah, I mean, I can possibly laugh about it now, but I used to pay the insurance rates for the cars every month, and it was I used to go to the bank in Liverpool and then toss the envelope through, and then you'd count it, and it'd be about maybe £3,000-4,000, whatever. And I had letters to post that particular day. So what I did was, when I walked past the post box, I put the money in which was in the same white envelope as the post. I put the money envelope into the post box and walked to the bank with the letters. Give the letters into the bank, and he said, "What is it? What is it, Mr. Richmore? What is it?" I said, "What?" I said, "The money's there." He said, "No, there's no money in here." And then I went, "Oh," hit me. So I went back to the office. My business partner wasn't very happy, to say the least. So what we did was we had to, the postman come. We went back to post box, and the postman come an hour later at 4 o'clock. We waited, and then we said, "Look, made a mistake here, they put some money in." But he said, "No, it's the post office's property. I've got to keep it." Anyway, it was getting a bit nasty, but I won't go into detail. But eventually we just got the money back. And then that gave me a real low there. I felt humiliated as well. I thought, you know, this can't go on. And that's the reason why I walked away from the job. It was just getting too much. I was just doing so many wrong things, visiting wrong places on the train, going to Southport to conduct some business when it should be in Freshfield or in Ormskirk, where we had another office. So that was how it's going. So it was a really low point in my life.
Yeah, we said we'd talk about post-diagnostic groups. Now, not everyone in the country gets post-diagnostic groups. Not everyone in the country gets the same amount of help as we do. We're very, very lucky here. It's a postcode lottery where you live in the country of what help you actually get when you're given a diagnosis of dementia. And that's something that we want to change, and it's something we're passionate about, that everyone should have help when they're given a diagnosis of dementia. A post-diagnostic group, all that does, it gets the people who have been newly diagnosed with dementia together with the carers, and they come, and there'll be, say, like 7 couples. And of course, there's some people live on their own with dementia, so they come on their own. And you sit in a room and you talk about what dementia is, what's going to happen, what the end product is. And we didn't like the way it was going, so what we did, we helped develop the post-diagnostic group, so it's more fun, more upbeat, more positive, because you've got to give people hope at these post-diagnostic groups, because people are at their lowest, people are the most scared after being diagnosed, because people are telling them they can't do things, and we're saying you can do things. And that's why we like to show things that we've done. I mean, we've done post-diagnostic. Where have you done post-diagnostic groups?
Well, we've been all over the UK, really. There's that many places what we've, I won't say performed at, but we've been asked to by medical staff and nurses. We've done York Hospital, Southport Hospital. We did a lot of Zooms for those to help the post-diagnostic patients. Mussley Hill Hospital. Really all over, and it's one of the things what I really enjoyed doing. And as Tommy says, to give people hope, you know, don't get out that armchair. You've got to keep on going normally to keep your independence and your autonomy. And so we enjoy it very much, don't we?
It's one of the greatest things we do. We've also done the police headquarters, you know.
Yeah, when we got in, took us an hour to get in. The Matrix building and speak in Liverpool.
Yeah, but as I say, it's one of the greatest things to do. It's one of the greatest things that someone's ever said to me in my life was after one of the post-diagnostic groups, a man stood up and pointed at me and he said, you've given me hope. He said, I had no hope before I came here. And I thought that's worth more money than anything, because it just gives someone hope. And I thought, yes. And I said, next year, I want you to be standing here in front of the next post-diagnostic groups to come, and you talk about what you've done this year, what you've achieved this year. And then we show them what we've achieved, because we've made videos, we've written plays, we've done all sorts of things, you know. And this is what people say you can't do. We prove to people we can do. That's our motto. We can do, not we can't do. There's no can't in dementia.
Yeah, we don't do it for accolades or money. We don't get paid anyway because we'll volunteer to do it. But just talking to people and as Tommy said, just giving them a little bit of hope is it makes us so proud that we can do that. You know, considering that our disability with Alzheimer's, and even if we just touch one person's heart and mind, then it's a result for us. And I say we're proud of what we've done, what we still do now.
It also gives the carers hope as well, because the carers, I mean, we always talk about carers as being the invisible people in dementia, because they're the forgotten people. And they need hope as well. They need help. They need help most probably more than we do. Because if you help the carer, you're helping us. Because if a carer goes down, you're going to need two carers, one for the carer and one for us. So that's why we cannot stress enough, help the carer, look after the carer, and the carer look after us without having to think about it, without the stress. They don't need stress, they don't need anxiety, they don't need hassle. I mean, some of them could lose their jobs just because they've got to look after people. Some could have had to give up their good career, and that builds in sort of resentment then, and that's what you've got to make sure doesn't happen, because you've got to not blame the person with dementia, because we never went out and did something to actually get this. This is an illness that came to us, we've got no control over, and we want the carer to be helped as much as we get helped.
Yeah, I think people's perception of Alzheimer's, people living with Alzheimer's, is it's just like celebrities. You see, as soon as a celebrity gets diagnosed, without mentioning names, then it's all over the news, and people think, this must be bad if celebrities have got it, but there's actually almost a million people, and that's a tsunami now. Just in the United Kingdom, God knows how many over the world there is. And as Tommy said, it's a two-pronged thing, because the carer sometimes has to give up the job, and and lots of family, even children, have to look after the parents or uncles or granddads and grandmoms. So it affects two people. So it's not just 1 million people; it's 2 million people, and we always stress that when we do our talks. It's not just the person living with dementia; it's the carer as well, who gets the bad end of the stick.
Yeah, it affects the whole family because, dementia, it just doesn't affect the person living with dementia. It affects the partner, the wife, the husband, the children, the grandchildren, everyone. And that's why we stress help the carer, help the person that they're looking after. I think that, there's times when I feel so frustrated about the lack of help that's out there for people living with dementia, because there's 10 times as much funding goes into cancer than goes into Alzheimer's. And as Paul said, there's 1 million people living with dementia in the UK, but that's diagnosed with dementia. That's not the ones that are undiagnosed. I'd most probably say it's double that, so there's a person in the world diagnosed with dementia every 3 seconds, which is unbelievable.
Yeah, it's a nightmare when you think about it. And people of a young age as well now, 30s and 40s, getting diagnosed. But I think when we've done the post-diagnostic groups, people, once they start warming to it, like we've been to York twice actually to do it, thinking on. It was Nottingham I think we went to, and we were talking to a post-diagnostic group there, and we just touched on travel, and I think I said, well, you can always, don't forget, you can always use your blue badge to park up if your carer's driving and take it, and then they're all like in shock. No, we're not entitled to a blue badge, they said. Do you remember, Tom? Do you remember that moment? And I said, you are by law. I said, you've got a disability. I said, no, the council won't give us one. So then we said, no, the council must give you one. And anyway, from that point on, and then we got a feedback when we bumped into those people at a gathering up in Scotland one time, and then say, thank you very much for that. We didn't even know, none of us appealed, but we've all got them now. So at least, that even that one thing has come out of what we were all talking about, and it's very, it's very, how can I say, enlightening to us that we've done that. We've helped them a little bit.
Yeah, because people assume that you're given all this information when you're diagnosed. You're not. You have actually got to go around and ask for everything, and it's not right. There should be a clear pathway of what's available for people newly diagnosed.
Yeah, but that's getting back to the postcodes as well. And I think we are lucky in Liverpool. We do get quite a lot of help during the well, we did during our post-diagnostic sessions, of which there were 6 or 7. But in other particularly rural areas, you will get nothing. I mean, we got booklets, we got signposted to the right direction. But as Tommy said, you go elsewhere and there's absolutely nothing, and it becomes worse then for the carer who's looking after them, trying to find out information. Probably they have to go to work, and it just becomes worse and worse. And then therefore you get the person living with dementia will give up and just sit there, which is so wrong and which we don't advocate for. And it's just like a tumbleweed rolling around, not knowing anything, not knowing which direction to go to.
Yeah. As we were saying before, it's a subject we'll be talking about in another podcast, is about carers, because I think it's important that we talk more about carers.
Indeed,
and especially young carers as well, because people don't realise there are young carers out there.
Yeah, very much so.
So, it's goodbye from me.
And goodbye from him. Till the next time.